Okay, wonderful. Thanks for bearing with me here, guys. Okay, so thank you so much for taking your time to be here. This is our second information session. In 30 minutes, we are going to very quickly explain Impact 100 Richmond, how we operate, and just tell you a little bit, most importantly, answer all of your questions about the grant process. So thank you for taking the time to introduce yourselves. It's really been great to see the number and variety of nonprofits that we've had in our first session and our session today. So we want to ensure that everybody really fully understands our process. And so don't hesitate to ask a question. If you have a question, I'm sure someone else had the same question. So by all means, ask questions. Okay, so what is Impact 100? So Impact 100 Richmond was established over 15 years ago as a way to galvanize women's philanthropy in our community. So our mission is to advance transformative giving in the Richmond region by uniting women's ideas and action through philanthropy. So our overreaching goal is to strengthen our community through collective giving to benefit visionary nonprofit initiatives impacting the Richmond region. And of course, that's where you come into play. Without you, we would not be here. So we are here for you and to support all your amazing hard work. I'm having a hard time with my, so I apologize. So since we began giving our first grant making, we were established in 2009. We did our first grant in 2010. And Impact 100 Richmond has invested over $2.2 million to the Richmond community since then. So I guess what we're doing has worked and is continuing to work. So we've supported more than 27, I think, transformational grants. And the projects and of course all the lives of the people that those projects have served. You can see some of the names right here. Okay, so let's talk about grant criteria. So our applicants must meet the following grant criteria that you see here to be considered for the Impact 100 grant. So you need to have your own 501c3 status. You need an annual operating budget of at least $250,000. You have to be in existence for 36 months or longer and currently in good standing in the state where your entity was formed. So basically, you could be doing projects here, but maybe your 501c3 status entity is from another state. But as long as it's impacting people here, working on a project here, that's okay. So a project serves either the city of Richmond and or the surrounding counties. So Chesterfield, Goochland, Hanover, Henrico, Powhatan. Funds should be utilized within 12 to 18 months. And then you should be able to demonstrate sustainability following the use of the Impact 100 Richmond grant. Okay, so we fund nonprofits that foster change in a transformative way and have a long-term positive impact. I've asked Bev to go ahead. We'll talk a little bit at the end about what transformative means to us as a group. And so Bev will share a link in the chat that you can take a look at or download just for your reference. So basically, we're looking for something that fosters change in a transformative way and has a long-term positive impact. So any new programs and or expansions or improvements to existing programs that can change the way an organization or a community operates is kind of what we're looking at. They could be programmatic and or capital in nature, and they can demonstrate specific measurable goals. Okay, so focus areas. So we actually have 5 focus areas. So in the application, you'll see that you'll be asked to select one of these focus areas. So arts and culture, education, environment and sustainability, family, or health and wellness. So I just want you to understand these categories are for informational purposes and they will not affect the review of your application in any way. Committees used to be, way back when, divided by these focus areas. We no longer do that. We don't organize them by focus area. The applications are all taken together. We divide them evenly among 5 committees, regardless of the focus area on the application. And we do this because we just found over the years when we see different things, we try to pivot and, make sure that we're doing things in the right way. Bev, are you adding people? I see some people in the waiting room. Let's see.
Yeah, let me do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. If you're just joining us, thank you. Also, just everybody, so you know, I am recording this and you can rewatch this recording, at your leisure. So that will be, you'll be able to find that on our website. We're going to link it to the page where you go for grants on our website. Okay, so we're just reviewing the focus areas. So again, these focus areas do not affect your review in any way. It's just a way for us to organize our grants. You'll be asked to choose one of these categories, and my advice would be choose the one that you think it just closely associates with. And then your applications are evenly divided among the 5 committees, not by focus area, but we just put them all together and divide them up evenly. Okay, so the grants timeline. This is a really important timeline for you to understand. This all starts with you. So we have a sneak peek going on right now, and I highly advise you to go in there and do that. Take a look at our website and go under grants and apply for a grant, and you could see a sneak peek PDF of what that grant looks like. So it's nice for you to get that idea ahead. So I encourage you to do that. Okay, so then our grants actually open on June 1st. So that's when you can actually go in there and start applying. All of those grants have to be in by midnight at July 18th. That is the deadline. And that's a hard stop. So we don't make exceptions. Then what happens is our grants are divvied up. They're evaluated to see if they qualify. If they do qualify, they are sent to our grant review committees and they begin to do their work. Once they have had their meetings and they decide who they want to, they're allowed to pick up to 3 nonprofits for what we call a site visit. That can be virtual, in person. They're usually in person, but depending on what your project is, there might not be a place to visit or a place to go. So they could be virtual. And you will have someone from Impact 100 Richmond reach out to you. They will be your liaison that you'll talk to. And then you're going to establish site visits that have to be done between that September 29th and I think it says October 17th, but my thing is blocking it. Is that right? Yeah, October 17th. So if I were you, I would put that on your calendar now. Those are times that we have for site visits. And once we get to that time period in our process, like it's very tight. So we stay on. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry about that. So then at the end of October, after the site visits are finished, sometime after October 17th, they get back together and they determine who our 5 finalists will be. They're selected and they are notified. And just so you know, along the process, we use Submittable, which you'll see to submit your grants. We also use Submittable as a communication tool to let you know if you have not moved ahead in the process. We would love to grant every single grant, every nonprofit a grant, obviously. The projects are amazing. These are really hard decisions for us. So please understand. Do not give feedback after. I know people really want that sometimes. Unfortunately, it's just really difficult to do. So you will receive an email from Submittable and know that we really value you and your time. And we always encourage people to apply again in subsequent years. We have had grants that have applied multiple years, and on their third year, they won the grant. And it's also something that we get feedback on from people that occasionally, when someone is turned down in the process, it causes them to pivot and change what they were doing. And in the case of certainly Art 180, I can think off the top of my head. By the time they won the grant, they had really expanded their whole like idea and mission, which was kind of exciting for them. So then in late October, once the 5 finalists are selected, things move very quickly. We get everyone together. You will have a training of what you need to do from there if you're a finalist. So you'll have a liaison, we'll hold your hand through that process. You'll have to get, some slides and a logo in and things like that quickly. Then you will come to the big give on November 11th. Usually there's like 5 people allowed per nonprofit that can attend. You have usually one person get up and speak, and it's basically giving your best TED talk of your life. You get up there, you give a talk. The audience votes live right after that. We have official auditors on the premises. They do the audit of our vote, and then we come back in the room and we give the big check, like right then. So as far as ongoing, it's important to us to encourage philanthropy in the community. Along with our grant making, we want to connect the community with all of you, not just the winner, but you will maintain an ongoing relationship with Impact 100 Richmond, our members, volunteer and educational opportunities. And that really goes for all nonprofits and all finalists. So, and then you'll come back and you will give a report. The following year, you will give us a report at our big give on how things went and how things are going. And then you'll submit at the 18-month mark, kind of a report. We are very cognizant of the fact that you all are constantly filling out grant applications. So we have been extremely mindful we're here to support you, not make your life harder. So we're very mindful of that. So any feedback of the process is welcome. We try to make it as easy as possible. And then even that reporting at 18 months, we're, trying to make that smooth and easy for all of you. Okay. I'd love to kind of review, what transformational means before we take questions, if that's okay. So first, I want to tell you, I want to talk about how we evaluate an organization a little bit too. So we train our grant review committees on how to review a grant, and then also what it means to look at a nonprofit. A lot of us, myself included, are not from the nonprofit world. So, we sometimes need a little education, which is amazing because that's part of what we do. So when we're looking at different elements of an effective organization, they might be evaluating you based on kind of any of these things. So looking for like a clear mission with aligned programming, some strong leadership. They're definitely looking at sustainability. I know that I've served on a lot of grant review committees. So if you're, asking for funding for a new project, they're going to definitely be asking themselves. And then if you get a site visit, asking you, what's your plan to make this sustainable if it's something that, is a new program type of thing. Also, they look at like, is it culturally relevant? Is it connected to the community? Obviously, are you utilizing strategic collaborations? I feel like that's something that the Richmond area does really well. I personally think we oftentimes have grants, more than one organization applying together to work on a grant. And also, what is the proven success of the organization or the project or the program, and what is the ongoing learning and innovation and use of best practices. So innovation is, this is what we call transformational. So that can be innovative. And I know people have questions about oftentimes like, what do you mean by transformational? So we educate our members between the difference of what we call transactional versus transformational. So transactional philanthropy, we tell them, revolves around institutional needs and fundraising goals, is more internally focused, does not include the donor as a partner, or focuses on activities. And again, you're all in the nonprofit world, so if my definition isn't spot on, like, I apologize, that this is kind of what we go over with them. Also, transformational philanthropy is visionary, takes risks, and creates a new paradigm. It changes the way an organization or a community operates. It pursues change, is willing to be daring, shifts consciousness, is responsive to the current environment. So I will say, we all know this is can be a horrible current environment for a lot of people. So um, transformational can address that, and it doesn't have to be. Um, when we say visionary and transformational, it doesn't have to be this new idea that no one's ever heard of. It can be transformational for you in a lot of ways. So I just encourage you to be thinking about that when you apply for your grant, and then be ready to kind of answer some of those questions, just because that's kind of the thought process of what they're looking at. So they'll think about if they feel like the proposal is visionary. So is the idea innovative? Does it bring best practice approach? Would it be something that's new to the community, or a new way of addressing the same problem, or maybe a new way it will help your organization function in a totally new way? That could be transformational too. So changing the way the community thinks and acts, changing the way the organization operates, becomes a systemic and permanent change. So those are kind of the things we look at. So are there some questions? Are you looking at the chat for me there, Beth?
Yep, there are no questions in the chat, but I see that Mark came off of mute.
Yeah. Feel free to come off mute and ask a question. Anyone?
Well, you gave us a great example of somebody who was able to pivot from being told, no, not right now. Can you give us an example? Like, I know Connexus got one of these, and I know they were able to scale on a much bigger level, but could you give me like another local example of how somebody was able to be transformative
Yeah,
with their grant?
a great idea. Let me go back and look at our little slide that has.
And I might have missed it because I was in the waiting room for a little bit. So if you said it
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
beginning, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So let's see. I mean, I can look at all these, right? So like when we did the Fit for Kids, this one over here on the left, I introduced them, so I know that one intimately. So that was to put salad bars in the Richmond schools. And that was something where they actually already had the equipment and they had the staff, but they needed funds to make it happen, to train the staff to make that change. And that was transformative in the fact that, you know, most of the kids that it was serving, were not able to get access to vegetables, kind of thing. So that basically kicked off that project and transformed the lives of a lot of children, not necessarily the Fit for Kids organization, but that transformed a community, a key part of a community, right? Feed More was one of our first ones. I mean, they did the backpack program, and we helped them. That, I think our grant was part of getting that off the ground. I think it maybe even started it. And now, I mean, holy cow, that's huge. And we didn't make it huge. They did, but we helped them get going. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm answering your question specifically. You just want like transformative examples?
Well, so much, and it's because I missed the beginning, so thank you. And if this is recorded, I can always just go back and rewatch
Yeah.
that. But that helps a lot to think about how it's transformative for the constituents or the participants rather than the organization.
Exactly. So transformative can address many specifics. Another one, that YWCA down here, this was transformative in the way they served domestic abuse victims, where they housed them in individual housing and then they could like actually bring their dog and things like that. And so a lot of women would not leave that situation because they knew their kids would be leaving their dog and they'd leave everything behind. And then they'd have to go in a shared living environment that they were very nervous about. So that was another one that was very transformative to that particular population. So yeah.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Hi, yes, I have a question if you don't mind. My name is Holden. I represent Mission Gate. I'm their director of advancement, and I have the way our foundation works is we're like kind of a 3-pillar foundation where we do like international missions, we do local reintegration stuff for like for individuals with like limb loss and other gait disabilities, and then we also do education for physical therapists. Do you think that it would be more beneficial for us to concentrate on like a singular pillar or like a singular program that we're doing within a pillar, or concentrating on the entire nonprofit as a whole?
Well, I think that's hard for me to answer because this is your project, right? So I think that you should think about, what can you do with the $100,000
Mm-hmm.
that would make the biggest impact, or whether it's the way you operate or your population. That's hard for me to answer.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think you're thinking about the right things.
But like no singular thing would like disqualify us. Like if we're not too local, like if the thing is like outside of like specifically Richmond, would it disqualify us?
Yeah, it needs to focus
Okay, so
on
The Richmond area, right? So
For
Chesterfield, Goochland.
So yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And that money is supposed to go directly to our the Richmond area and the surrounding counties.
Gotcha. So then probably concentrating more on like the stuff that we individually do in Richmond as compared to stuff that we do outside of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you. That was like my main question. It's just we have so much, so finding the right
Yes,
program
yeah,
is the
I'm
correct way to
sure.
do it.
And don't hesitate to reach out with questions to the Impact 100 rva@gmail.com email. That's, on our website. All that comes directly to me, and I'll answer any other questions that you have.
There are 2 other questions in the chat. So Yvonne is asking if her organization was disqualified previously, even though they're a 501c3 and 45 years in existence and serve the localities, they're sustainable, so forth. I'm assuming they were not disqualified. Basically, we just, we ultimately have to narrow it down to 1, maybe 2 winners. So it's a really, really tough, tough thing to get from. Like last year we had 53 or 54 applications and we had to narrow that down and gave the money to the tool bank. So you're asking if you should reapply. Yes, if you meet the criteria, as we outlined, definitely reapply and you'll go through the process all fresh again. And
Yes,
then,
so you feel like, if your question is, you feel like you disqualified at the very beginning of that, then you can email me and I can look into it, like if there's something that disqualified you. But I think what Bev is trying to say is you probably made it into that first process of the 50 grants, which again, I cannot emphasize enough that those are really hard decisions for those groups. You guys, we would fund every one of you if we could. So that it's hard, you're all doing great.
Yvonne has a follow-up question, and then there's at least 2 more questions. So let's see. The follow-up question was, what if the Richmond region and multiple counties will benefit from the project, but it's also kind of statewide? And that's okay. Like, as long as you are serving and benefiting the Richmond area as part of your program, that will meet that criteria. Hopefully that answers your question. Let me scroll. Oh, they're coming in fast and furious. Let's see. What kind of reporting do you like to see at the 12-month mark and the 18-month mark?
That's a good question. So we've been through changes where we have had parent 501c3 organizations, and actually we're very proud to announce that we are now officially our own 501c3, which doesn't really impact you guys at all, except for the fact that it allows us to have a more direct line with our members and with our nonprofits. So in that process and all those changes, we have had to start figuring out some of that ourselves of like, what do we need in our reporting? And we actually just asked our first, winner from 18 months ago, hey, we need to get a report. And I believe Tally Baraka, who is our founder, I believe the wording she used was, hey, if you want it to just kind of be something more of a spreadsheet looking at what you did with the numbers and how it's working out, um, you know, that's fine. We're kind of working on that. Again, we don't want to make your lives harder. So we are fiscally responsible, and we have a responsibility to our members to obviously like mind the store and make sure that their money is going appropriately. But this is not a grant where we're going to be hovering over your head after. We're checking in. We want you to come. We require that you come. We hope that someone comes to the Big Give and gives us, that is kind of a requirement. It doesn't have to be one particular person, but just to give us a report, not even a report. That's like a bad word. Just give us an update. Everybody's
Yeah,
excited.
exactly.
They want to hear and want to see what
The
you
great
did.
things you've done. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes that is, hey, we tried this new thing and it didn't really work. So now we pivoted to do this. This is not us standing over your head.
Yeah.
I hope that
I have to drop in 1 minute, so I'm going to read the 2 questions that are in here to make sure that they get addressed, and then everybody feel free to continue either coming off mute or putting your stuff in the chat. So first is Megan from Peter Paul. Is there a preference given to orgs who have never received funding? Peter Paul has received a grant in the past, so she wants to understand, is there any preferential treatment, or does that, kind of bump them down on the list? And then the second one is from Sarah at Seymour, and she, I believe, is asking if there's a bigger program, but they are asking for funding $100,000 for a very specific piece of that program.
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. Okay, so going back here. So the first question is, no, it does not affect you if you come back for another grant. There is a time period, I think, Beth, do you know what that time period is? But I think you're past it. I think it's 3 years or something.
Can't get off mute. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 3 years.
Yeah, so you can't, like Tool Band could not come back again this year. They won last year. So I think it's 3 years. But the answer is no. And we love to see that. We want all people applying. So we want to help the community. So nope, that does not affect you. The second one is being a small amount, $100,000 being a small amount, part of a bigger project. That can be transformational too. That's an excellent example of how you need to think about transformational. So a great example of that is, I'm looking for it, the Arc Park. I don't see it on here. We don't have all the ones on here. So we were, the Arc Park is a park that was built for people with accessibility, for people with disabilities. And I think we were a very tiny part in that. But what happened with that is they had raised, I think well over $1 million. I mean, it might have been multiple. I honestly don't remember. But they had kind of hit, like they had told us after the fact that they had kind of hit a little bit of a stall, and that our grant not only helped that $100,000, but it reinvigorated the project. And very quickly after that, they were able to close the gap with the project. So that's another thing that everyone can think about, is that even applying, I mean, our goal is to connect you to the community. So even being an applicant and even being a finalist that doesn't win the large amount, often we have actually had in the past somebody in the audience that says, oh no, I really want that project to move on, and has actually funded it. And now that hasn't happened a lot, but that's happened before. People are very passionate about the project. So, they sometimes will support them. So that's not uncommon. I mean, that's our goal, is to connect the community with philanthropy, and women, obviously, in particular. Okay, so let me look at the chat, since I know Bev had to step off. Let's see. What if the Richmond region and multiple counties will benefit from the project, but it will also benefit other parts of the Commonwealth? That's fine. Did she already read this? Okay, let me go backwards. Is it always 100,000 to one group, or where you split it? Yes. So that's a great question. And I mentioned a couple times that we pivot. We really try to be mindful of what's going on in the community. And we understand that this is a really difficult time right now. Those are ongoing conversations for us always. Currently, right now, it is a $100,000 grant that will go to one person. I will tell you that we do our very best not to hold on to any money that we don't need to operate. We operate as slim as we can. And so usually our leadership committee, when we get close to the big give and we know exactly how much money we have, and we know what we need to go forward to start the next year, what we will do is if we do have monies left over, a lot of times we will divide up an amount and give it to the 4 finalists that did not win. That isn't a guarantee ever, but we have done that in the past. During COVID, we completely pivoted and we ended up giving multiple $50,000 grants and then granted the other, I think we had two $50,000 grants and then we granted the other three, maybe 10 or 20. I honestly can't remember, but we pivoted at that time. We understand it's a really difficult time. We've had an in-depth discussion. We have decided to stay the course right now. And that's really all I can say about that, but that's an excellent question, and know that it is always on our mind. Considering part of a larger project. Yeah. Are there any other questions? I think maybe I got through all of them. Anyone? You can come off mute or, okay.
Oh, I have one more question. Sorry.
Yep, that's okay. Go ahead.
So for the site visit, there's oftentimes during that exact time frame, we have a really big event that we put on that is actually going to be part of the grant that we're asking for. Would it be okay to invite you guys to the event itself as compared to like our working area or like our working location, or would you guys prefer to like do a tour of the working location?
So I think you can talk to your liaison about that, but I will say, grant, so just so you know, site visits usually are 60 to 90 minutes. We ask that we get the last 15 minutes for question answering. So that is really important. You want to be able to answer the questions. Oftentimes those site visits are, I mean, they're so amazing. I wish we could visit every one of the grants, to be honest, because the site visits help answer a lot of questions. It's very revealing as to your project. So I think I would be careful about that. The other thing is you want as many people from that committee to come as possible, to be honest. And depending on when your event is, maybe if it's at night, people might not all be able to make it. I think that's something that you discuss with your liaison when it gets closer. If that event is going to really show them what you do, yeah. And if you can leave 15 minutes in a quiet room for detailed questions, great. You guys can decide that kind of as you move forward, I think.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, hasn't been answered. Thank you. Okay, one of the criteria for eligibility is to be in existence for 36 months. What if an organization has only been granted a 501c3 status from last year, but has been active in the community for 3 years? Barry, I don't know that answer to that question, but I will ask. Yeah. I'll ask. Can you do me a favor and email? I'll make a note. And I will ask Tally that question. But if you could email me so that I have your email and I can respond to you. It's impact100rva@gmail.com. So would you be able to show, I'm guessing that I'm not sure if she's going to say, give a hard yes or no on that, but would you be able to show that I think you'd have to be able to show like your financial records and all that if they even allow you to do that. They might not allow you to do that, but I will ask. Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, the recording will be linked to our website, and she'll probably get that done, by the end of the weekend into next week. And if you have any questions, any problems hearing the recording or anything, by all means, please let me know. And I really appreciate your time. And I wish you all good luck.
Thank you.